Hello everybody, welcome to the second ever slicedlime supporters Q&A video. First of all, let me apologize for this being so late. The explanations for that are all in my recent channel update, which I'm pretty sure you've all watched by now. So you probably know, and that also explains my voice might sound a bit different. Anyway, we're gonna get right into it. Wow, well done, drone footage looks so amazing. Well, that's not a question, but thank you very much. Here, have some more. We're gonna continue on the drone track. So, you've hinted at this drone footage before and that you're going to use it for some sort of mysterious project. Any more hints? I'm just really curious. P.S. The footage looks really cool, by the way. Oh, thank you again. Well, I don't think this was that big of a secret, to be honest. I announced having bought the drone just about the same time that Minecraft Earth was sort of announced. And the idea is that we try to use it in conjunction and make something cool out of it. And if nothing else, is now I have more video footage equipment. So that's cool. I don't know. If that doesn't pan out, we'll use it for something else cool. And just for all of these, like, channel update videos and everything else is pretty cool. I'm sure it will come in handy, but yeah, the initial sort of justification for getting it was to try to make something out of Minecraft Earth with a little higher production values than just like capturing a phone screen. Who are you? 7 question marks. I don't know how to answer that. I think you know who I am. I am a game developer and YouTuber from Stockholm. But on sort of the same kind of line, so this might be a fairly obvious question, and it's probably already answered somewhere, but why did you choose the username slicedlime? You could be a sliced lemon too, for all I know. So yes, it has been answered. It was a pretty common question in my 5,000 sub Q&A video that I did way back when I hit 5,000 subs, obviously. I watched that now though, and it's a little cut off explanation, so I might give you the sort of full story. The full story starts with a very old game, and that old game was part of an old German game series. It was translated into English as Realms of Arcania, and it was 3 games. The first game was called Blade of Destiny, and I don't even know how we ended up getting it, but we had it on a computer when I was a kid, and we played it. Me and my brother played it for ages. And then the second game of the trilogy was released, called Star Trail. The thing was like enormously much better, had some videos, cutscenes in it and stuff, and it started off with some form of cutscene that just glitched the hell out of my computer, and just like all I remember is this audio loop of it going like a temple in a temple in a temple in a temple, and I don't know. That's a little bit of a tangent, but anyway, when that cutscene actually worked, it was a reference to the Star Trail, a magical battle axe or something, I want to say. I can't remember the details, but anyway, there was also a reference to a character in there called Elsurion Starlight. Still doesn't sound much like limes, does it? We'll get to it. I really liked this for some reason. I was really into the game, and so I picked up Starlight as my kind of nickname or something. Turns out Starlight is 9 characters, and at the time there was still like 8 character limits in a lot of places. So that got shortened into Starlight with L-I-T-E, and then people on IRC, where I used to hang a bunch, just took to calling me Starry, and so it just turned into Starry and various variations of Star. And then later, when I created my first game studio, together with a classmate in college, we looked for a name, and we ended up, because of all of the names and domains being taken and stuff, just settling on the name Limebird Entertainment. And so we made a bunch of stuff there, and in the process I sort of combined those names into Lime Star. So I went by Lime Star for a whole while, and then that just somehow shortened into Lime. The problem is, if you call yourself Lime online, so there's about 1 million others, so the nickname Lime was taken in any community that I would join where, you know, there was a unique nickname requirement. Lime would be taken, so I was Lime with underscores for a bit, and then, you know, I was all kinds of, like, I started putting attributes to it, and then eventually somebody just went like, hey, you slice of lime, you can have a slice of lime in your drink or whatever. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I can be sliced lime, because I'd had like all of these other nicknames related to lime. And then that one just stuck. It was unique enough, but also like easy enough to remember. And this was many, many years ago, and I've been sliced lime ever since. So that's the full story. Alright, how was your holiday in Sävast? Well, it was good, but it wasn't a holiday as such. I actually worked remotely from there for like most of the time, and basically all the time that I wasn't working, I was helping with the event there, so I drove a ton. And it was actually quite exhausting, all things considered, so when we came home I was thoroughly exhausted. So it was nice, it's a nice place, but it wasn't a holiday as such. How challenging do you find it to balance working with Minecraft and also making update videos? Well, it's not really a balance. Like, I work on Minecraft during work hours. Just like any other job, I work set hours. I have a certain amount of time per week that I go to work and do work things. And then whenever I get home, I do update videos, and basically there's some slack in my working hours, so sometimes I leave early or sometimes I work later and stuff, but in general it's the same amount of time, and it's not that big of a balance that way. The thing that tends to happen is whenever we do release a snapshot or something, I will, as soon as I get home, whenever I get home, I'll go directly into making the update video, and I'll skip like having dinner and stuff like that, because whenever I eat I get like a very it's kind of, you get this slimy feeling in your throat, so I clear my throat a lot more, and that makes editing video work a lot more like work, because I have to cut away a bunch of like stuff. But in terms of balance with work and the channel, work is work hours, the channel is everything else pretty much. Second half of that question is, and do you know the changes and prepare for them before the release? So in this situation I'm in now, yes, obviously I do know some of the stuff that's coming, but also I tend to not, like, I don't, like, the snapshot isn't a snapshot until it's a snapshot. It's made very, like, the actual snapshot is made very soon before it actually goes out, almost all the time anyway, so like I don't have anything to capture video off. So most of the time I'm mentally prepared, but I don't have any actual preparations done. And then for an actual release, if you go back and watch my snapshot videos and then watch the update video for that release, you'll find that some of the footage from the snapshot videos are also in the update video, because then I will know what's coming into that update because it has been in snapshots. But like from work, I know some stuff, but all of the work of making snapshot videos is generally done afterwards. And if you are interested and you haven't seen it, I did actually live stream the full process of making a snapshot video, or I think it was a snapshot. And it basically shows the entire process from gathering all of the intel from various sources and all the way through to finished video, basically. What is your favorite part of working at Mojang? That's a kind of tricky one, actually. I don't know, like, if there's one specific thing. I very much love making games, and one of the things that I haven't liked in my previous jobs has been that I've not been able to connect to the community. And Mojang actually encourages the developers to communicate with the community and be involved and stuff, which is a part I really enjoy. So compared to other game development jobs, I would say that is probably my favorite difference between other game jobs and working at Mojang. Just getting to work on a game that I absolutely love and that I've played to pieces is actually very special overall. How have you learned to deal with hundreds of 12-year-olds spamming "Can you add XYZ to Minecraft" on your Twitter? I would say my Twitter is not that bad. I'm not that well discovered compared to some of the other devs yet, I guess. So it's not that bad for me. It's worse for some of the others. Twitter, in general, I find Twitter is easier to ignore when there's people who aren't being very, like, productive or, like, posting anything interesting. I can just ignore it. It's actually worse when I meet, like, kiddos' friends and their parents, or, like, just other kids in real life, and they go like, "Oh, I have this idea for Minecraft, could you add this thing?" And I'm like, yeah, well, sorry, but no. That's a little more awkward. If you could add a new biome, what would it be and why? What type of blocks, mobs, etc. would it have? So I don't know if that's what you had in mind really. What I would really like to do would be, I guess, a remake of the end. The outer sections of the end are just like this desolate wasteland right now, with like a bunch of cities where there are shulkers, and there's a whole bunch of problems with that. Especially that you tend to, like, getting shulker boxes is this enormous pain that involves exploring new terrain. And I've always kind of been thinking, what is the natural habitat of the shulker? Like, where do they come from? What is, like, what's the shulker place? What's the shulker birth biome, I guess? And I think it would be really cool to, like, have a stab at making several different biomes for the outer rim on the end, and where one of them could be, like, here's where the natural habitat of the shulkers are. Stuff like that. So I think if I would do one biome, I would probably do something for the end, because that would both make it more interesting and also solve that particular gameplay problem. Alright, let's get technical. Why does Minecraft use OpenGL 2.1 instead of something like 3.3 or 4.0? I know recently, sometime during the 1.14 minor versions, a warning message was added to let people know the future versions will require OpenGL 3.2. But even that seems like an odd choice to me. Why 3.2 instead of 3.3? I realize I know nothing about the game's development, so maybe there's some kind of reasonable explanation. I guess we should clarify a thing here. It's not what the game uses, it's what the game requires. So, making the game require a higher OpenGL version will let us use more functionality out of that version easier, but it will also obsolete a bunch of hardware. So there are some old integrated, like mostly Intel graphics cards that don't support certain versions of OpenGL, which means that if we crank up the OpenGL version, we make our own lives easier at the cost of making more players unable to play the game. And that's at some point fine, because we have to modernize the graphics engine, but at the same time we do try to keep it back as far as possible, because yeah, it'll actually make people not be able to play new versions. You'll always be able to play old versions on your old hardware, but new versions will require newer versions of OpenGL and your graphics driver, and thus your graphics card. That's simply why we choose as low of a version as possible. It's like, there's this certain feature that we need, and it's available in this OpenGL version. That's where we stop. We don't go higher than that, because it would make more people not be able to play. That's the simple version of it. Last month, I asked if we can support the channel in other ways than just donating money. You said you'll have to get back on me on that one. So, any updates? Well, not quite. The problem is, I wouldn't mind getting some help with certain things for the channel, because I'm always swamped, and there's always a whole bunch of stuff that I don't have time for. The problem is, there's very little of that I feel comfortable handing over to somebody else. Almost all of the time for the channel goes into recording and editing, and like there's not that much other stuff really. And I can't hand either of those two away. And there's some other stuff, and maybe that would have been smart to do, I don't know. But at the moment, I don't have that much. The only thing that people really can help with is to, whenever there's a possibility, help spread the word about the channel, like help point people towards the different playlists and stuff. Maybe once we start getting closer to this, like the next Charity Lime stream, there will be opportunities, but for now, not much. How copyright works? Yes. But really, you used Star Wars music in your last Q&A video. I wonder how that's possible without getting a copyright claim. And then there was an answer to that saying that it's fair use because I criticized the music, I was talking about how I like it and so on. So let's get into copyright, because copyright is an enormous subject, and a lot of people, like most people, get it wrong. But let's start out with this fair use thing, because it's actually not fair use, and I'll get back to how I'm able to use this thing anyway. But it's not fair use. Well, or I can't know. And that's the problem with fair use. So there are a couple of problems with the fair use defense. First of all, fair use is a US only thing. So even if the thing is counted as fair use in the US, your video could still be blocked basically everywhere else in the world because fair use doesn't exist in Germany or Sweden or whatever. So that's one problem. The second problem is there's no way of knowing if something is fair use without having it tested in court, which is something I'm extremely uninterested in doing. I do not want to go to court. So basically what you do is you just stay safe on the safe side of things. Some things are more obviously fair use, and some things are more obviously not fair use. A lot of people think that if you transform it somehow, then it becomes fair use automatically, and that's very much not true. There are several different factors that the court will look at and weigh together to determine whether something is fair use or not, and all of those factors have to be evaluated as fair use in order for the whole thing to be fair use, I guess you could say. So there's actually, I just really the other week saw a really good tool that somebody made for this that is called isitfairuse.com. Simple enough. So it basically asks you a whole bunch of questions to see if something is fair use or not. And it's a really good tool, so let's actually do that here, and let's try to get a good question. Let's answer all the questions as they pertain to that old Q&A, and we'll find out what it has to say about it. So, is it fair use? My project is mostly for myself, and it's not shared anywhere else. That's not true. Education as a student, teacher, or non-profit is also not the case. Criticism, parody, review, critique, or satire, well, that's not mostly what that was about. Like my project, it was a Q&A video for the viewers, so it's not that. Marketing for a product, company, personal brand, etc. Maybe you could call it marketing, but I wouldn't call it marketing even if it's for my personal brand, slicedlime. It's not really like marketing for it, it's a video produced for it. So, entertainment, I only want people to enjoy it, which is more the case. So that's what the project was for. I have transformed the original work by adapting it to a new medium, such as making a book into a movie, nope. Using its characters, nope. Altering its expression, not really. Providing my own commentary or reactions to it, yes, I have. I am expecting to earn no money at all, either directly or indirectly. That's not strictly true, because this is a video that is only accessible if you've actually, provided something for the channel. It's not strictly money, because my moderators also have, their volunteer time also counts as supporting, but I do definitely earn some money through this whole thing. None or some money, but for a registered non-profit, nope. Only incidental revenue, from advertising or sponsorship, also not really, because it's directly contributed by the supporters. Only support from fans who like my work or products from companies. Yeah, that's the one. The copyrighted work I want to use is factual, nope. Creative, such as art, fiction, a game, or a performance. Yep. The copyright work I want to use has been published and is currently available. Yeah. The amount of the copyrighted work I'm using is very little, like a few words or seconds. Well, I've used 40 seconds of music, so not really. Only a small amount, like a few paragraphs or minutes, that's more like it. And realistically, my work might have a market effect on the original that doesn't exist. No market impact. Likely not to be fair use. And you can read all of this, so you can go through the same thing and read all of this on the website if you want, but basically, you gotta be very dang certain that your thing is fair use before you start claiming it as fair use. I would say 99% of the time that I see somebody claiming fair use of something online, it's, if you put it through this website, you'd get this line, likely not to be fair use. Again, you can't know until a judge has tested it, but it's very likely not to be fair use, because just talking over something and talking about whether you like it or not is not sufficient to qualify something as criticism, as critique, as a review. If something is specifically a review, then it qualifies a little bit more. But just a let's play with talking over something doesn't necessarily make it fair use. So yeah, you have to be a lot more nuanced about things if you are going to upload something and claim it's fair use. You better know a lot better. So that's not it. So the question is, what is it? Because you are right, not only did I use the Star Wars music, but I also used actual video clips. And the reason that I could do that was simply because the owner, the holder of the copyright, will let me. And here we have to get into another real tricky distinction, which people get wrong all the time. How is that possible without getting a copyright claim? Well, it isn't. But it also doesn't matter. YouTube has two different things. One is a copyright claim, a content ID claim, which basically just means, hey, there's content that is copyrighted inside of this video. There's also a copyright strike, which is an enormous deal and you don't want to get it. Which of those that you get depends on the copyright to the work in question and what the rights holder thinks, what they like. Basically, it's all up to them. But there's also a database of stuff in YouTube, like the YouTube, there's a copyright search thing that you can use to find out what would happen if I was to use this piece of music in my video. And sometimes it's like, you're not allowed, you will get a strike. Like, your video will get blocked. But sometimes it's also like, you will just not be allowed to monetize this video, and it's fine, like it will be tracked. Or sometimes it's monetized, but all the money will go to them. And in this case, their policy is, it's actually the video that's getting claimed, not the audio. But their policy is, they're tracking it, and you are not allowed to monetize it. Which is fine, because since this is a Q&A video for my supporters, it was never meant to be monetized in the first place. So, the reason I can use that clip with the audio and that video is because I knew that the policy would let me use it. I would just get a claim. Claims are fine, you can have any amount of claims. The only thing that not disputing a claim means is that you agree that you used some piece of copyrighted thing and you agree to abide by whatever policy that they had. So basically, I just went like, oh, I can use this thing. I won't be allowed to monetize my video, but that's fine, I never had that intention anyway, so I used it. The key here is you have to kind of figure that out beforehand, because otherwise you might get a copyright strike, and a strike, getting 3 of those will get your channels deleted, basically. So yeah, that's all of the fair use and copyright stuff. Generally, I try to make sure that all the music I use is cleared beforehand, so that I know that I have valid licenses about it. And that's like the reason I can use so much music and stuff in my videos is because I know that I have a license to use that music, either it being in the YouTube music library, it being a Creative Commons licensed song, or just it being an artist that will hand out licenses for you to use, even if they aren't Creative Commons. And that's the case for instance with Zircon that I use a bunch. And speaking of music, might be too late for this one, but do you have any music recommendations? I've enjoyed the music you use so far in streams and videos, so I thought you might have some good suggestions. Maybe I do, probably I do actually, but it's also like the case is the music that I use on the channel is not necessarily the only music that I would listen to normally. I like, so for a long time the sort of signature music style of the channel was chill step, which I enjoy it and it's pretty good, but it's also like the music that you hear on the channel has this big thing about it, which is I'm allowed to use it on the channel, which restricts the music choice a ton. And that goes for streams as well. Like a lot of people will use like copyright music on Twitch and then just accept that the archive gets muted the heck out, like yeet the entire music, but I don't. Like I want to make sure that I have licenses for all the music, which restricts me quite a lot. Now, I will link my Spotify profile down in the video description. It has a whole bunch of playlists on there that I use. In specific, it does have a chill step playlist, which is like other chill step that you normally won't hear on the channel because, yeah, licenses. And there's some other like electronic and chill stuff. I also listen to a whole bunch of like trance and psytrance and also a whole bunch of like metal stuff, which generally I don't play on the channel. Partly because I don't think it fits and not as many people will enjoy it, and partly because a lot of it has like lyrics and stuff, which I also try to stay away from in background music most of the time. So yeah, there are a bunch of things there. I have a metal playlist that I have like a mix of metal. I have a car playlist, that's the one that people come back to the most, which is basically a playlist of a little mixture of modern like pop and rock music that is, and some electronica that is all like, it's meant to have a very strong beat and so be very suitable to long drives to just keep the energy up and keep a beat going. So that's a little special one, but people tend to, like, I have a bunch of followers on that one because people seem to like that style of music. And yeah, there's a chill step playlist, there's a chill playlist, there's a trance playlist. yeah, there's a Pirates playlist if you want to hear some of the music, and there's an MTV playlist, which is actually not for the music television, but for the Medieval Week event that I was just at. So it has a whole bunch of like medieval style and fusion music. So I'll link that in the video description. Just head on over to that profile, like try out whatever from the playlists, I guess, and see if you find something you like. And that's the last question that I found. I hope I haven't missed any. Again, apologies for this being so late. I've kind of lost track a little bit in the time that I got sick and went on trips and whatever, but I think I found all of the different questions. And again, thank you very much for your support. It means a whole ton. And again, I hope you enjoyed this questions and answers video. I think what we'll do is we'll wait until the end of next month, because otherwise we'll do another one of these in like a week, and I think that's a little too close. So we'll probably skip one, since this one ended up in the middle of the month instead of the beginning. Let me know in the comments if you absolutely want another one, like no, and maybe we'll sort that out. But otherwise I'll give you like a month to think of questions, and we'll do another one then. Thanks, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you all laters.